All right, let's continue our discussion on this major international news. Joining me now, former Deputy National Security Advisor, KT McFarland. KT, thank you so much. Always wonderful to see you. Let me tell you where my head is going here, KT. This seems a little too simple a solution to a major threat to Vladimir Putin. It kind of seems like a short-term fix or a little too tidy. Is this over?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, no. This is act one of at least a three-act play, and there's probably going to be a part two and a part three. This is going to get so many different directions. And Shelby's reporting was very good because she sort of said nobody really knows, right? Is the Wagner Group, which is essential to the Russian effort in Ukraine, are they going to keep fighting? Are they not going to keep fighting? The other thing is that the conventional wisdom is, oh, well, Vladimir Putin is really in big trouble. Yeah, maybe we'll see. He certainly has seen the armor being pierced. But the thing that a couple of things that just sort of struck me that nobody's talking about is, so the Wagner mercenary group was able to get within 100 miles of Moscow, and they met no resistance. They met, tourists with selfies, treating them as if they were conquering heroes. So why is Russia, does Russia not have any internal defense? Or does Russia not have any internal defense because everybody that should be defending the motherland is somehow in Ukraine? Those are questions. The other is that Putin and Prigozhin have kind of set themselves up. It's going to be one or the other. Nobody, you don't take a swipe at the king unless you're going to kill the king.
Yeah.
And so for Prigozhin to do this and then to somehow leave and go into exile, in effect, that exile isn't going to last forever.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that, so what does Putin do behind closed doors? If you look at Russian history, the only real in-the-street armed revolution they've had was when they founded the Communist Party in the Soviet Union in 1917, so over 100 years. Ever since then, there have been a lot of coups and there have been a lot of replaced leaders, but it's always been behind closed doors. So I've got to wonder now, behind the closed doors of the Kremlin, are people saying, hey, wait, who knew that he was this vulnerable? Maybe it's my turn. Maybe we should. So I think, again, act one, and there's going to be so many twists and turns of this before we even get to act two.
You've been following Russia, the former Soviet Union, going back to the Ford and the Nixon and Reagan administrations.
Yes.
There was this recent report in the Washington Post stating that the U.S. intel community learned of this plan maybe a couple of weeks ago. U.S. intelligence also believed that Putin was informed of Prigozhin doing this plot. We know that Prigozhin was critical of the support that he was getting for his men in Ukraine, and as a result, they were sustaining very heavy losses. Why do you think he did this? Why do you think that this guy would make such definitive claims, say that he was going to basically roll into Red Square, and then turn around and make a deal with Putin's lieutenant, essentially, which is Lukashenko in Belarus?
Yeah, there's so many unanswered questions because when you think about it, it happened pretty quickly, right? All of a sudden, the Wagner mercenaries are in tanks and they're heading to Moscow. And then Putin, and I don't think this was faked on Putin's part, he comes out and gives just a really serious statement saying, these people are traitors, we're going to punish them, we're going to, chop off their heads. And then a few hours later, well, we've reached a deal. We have Prigozhin is going into exile. Nobody's going to be charged with any crimes. And his mercenaries are going to be brought into the regular Russian army. So who knows? I mean, is this all a big kabuki dance? Is this all false flag stuff? You just don't know. Maybe with Prigozhin in league with Putin. I mean, this is one possibility, not a high probability. But
I wanted to ask you about that. I wanted
to get rid of the Russian military.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that, KT, because if you are President Lukashenko right now, and you've got and you've got Prigozhin, who's got control of, or at least some degree of control, over 50,000 armed men, now in your country, and you know that at one point he was very close to Vladimir Putin. If you're Lukashenko, are you a little, concerned here that this could create instability in your own country? And he's not necessarily sitting pretty either in his own country.
Yeah, these are house guests you really don't want to have. Right? Because who knows where these guys go. But the other thing is that, Prigozhin has been very critical, as have others, of the Russian senior military command and the Defense Department equivalent. And so Vladimir Putin is sort of stuck with those guys, even though they're losing the war in Ukraine to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So maybe is somehow Putin thinking, aha, Prigozhin's going to come in. He's going to give me an excuse to get rid of these top brass in the military, and then who knows what comes after that.
Yeah.
Maybe Prigozhin becomes the new defense minister. There's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
Everything from, toppling the coup with the king to false flag operation to maybe this is all the launch of the Prigozhin political campaign. They have an election in 2024 as well.
Yeah.
And Prigozhin has set himself up as the populist, the guy who speaks truth to power. And so maybe he got an ambition here.
Either way, it's not over. It's not over, says KT McFarland.
Yeah.
They're just getting started. KT, thank you so much. We always appreciate your
It's a
insights.
pleasure, Tom.
Good to
Thank
see you.
you.